Guten Tag, ciao, and hello. It's Doctor with another Star Wars Armada tournament preview. We have the top four. This is the elimination phase for the Assault on Endor 2022 Gold League. So the Gold League consists of the top two players from essentially every pod, and uh, these four players that we're about to look at came out on top after 4 rounds of Swiss. So now they're head-to-head elimination style, and first up we have LargePackage. If you told me that a 2 activation list would make the top of the Gold League, I'd call you crazy because, quite frankly, it's impressive that it even made the Gold League, I'd say, because 2 activations in Armada is hard to pull off, especially unless it's like a Super Star Destroyer or something. But LargePackage has made it work with just Imperial 2 Star Destroyer. In combination with a Gladiator 1 Star Destroyer. So the Imperial 2 is kitted towards squadrons. The Gladiator 1 is kind of a traditional Demolisher build, except it has 7th Fleet Star Destroyer instead of Demolisher. So that's interesting. And then, kind of a typical 134 for LargePackage with Bosk, Jendon, Vader, Merrick Steel, Saber Squadron, and 3 Interceptors. So Bosk is the one that stands out the most out of, the kind of typical Imperial squad ball. Uh, Before we dive into what's what, let's take a look at how LargePackage got into the elimination stage. They say pressure makes diamonds, and I guess that's the case for LargePackage here. So coming out of a tough pod in which he topped with 18 points, but the loser, quote, air quotes, the loser, Mithra, only had 15. So that means there was not a large margin of victory at all within the pod phase, but LargePackage came out on top. So despite a 10-1 loss to Mithra, he ended up beating Backseat Admiral with that MSU list there and Green Leader pretty significantly to garner 18 tournament points, and that was enough to top Pod 5. And like I said, second place at 17, third place had 16, and fourth place had 15 points in that pod. And coming out of the pod, he was thrown up against one of the best in the world, I'd say, Boba Fett, where he won 10-1 up against Boba Fett's Akbar MC30s. And then he played Akbar again with Angry Ewok at the helm. Last year's Vassal World Cup runner-up. So 17 points against Akbar across 2 rounds. And then he played PT-106, who also goes by Paul, one of the many Pauls here within the Armada community, and picked up a solid 7-point win there, and then finalized everything off with a nice 8-point win against Schiapo 88. And really, this is just impressive. Going 4-0 in Swiss is always good, but doing it without even taking a small win is pretty good too. I mean, like, you could say a 7 is a small win, but I think getting in the triple digits of MLV is actually that tips it from essentially a favored draw into a small win category. Um, yeah, so this is excellently done. He can handle himself against being out activated, and really well. So I'm interested to see. I wish I got caught these games because again he's got a very interesting fleet LargePackage, but we will see how that works out in the semifinal here against Xantos. Now let's take a look at Xantos's list. Step aside, Fox Omega. Xantos is shown up here with Count Dooku and really taking people to town with him. Although this isn't the first time Count Dooku has shown up and done really well. I want to say so. It was last year's Vassal World Cup, so 2021. Um, Man, you're gonna have to go back to my videos. But there was I think it was top 10 finish, top 15 finish in the Vassal World Cup from a Dooku fleet there. But anyways, a top 4 finish. This is impressive. Dooku here is on a Muni Star Frigate. Pretty typical build, I'd say, for a Star Frigate. Um, and then a Recusant Light Destroyer, Patriot Fist, very light, only 105 points. Hard Cell Battle Refit and a Hard Cell Transport with Slicer Tools. Kind of typical stuff. TI-99 is a fun thing there on the Hard Cell Battle Refit. And then 4 Vulture Droids, to round out the squadron complement. So again, 4 activations, 6 deployments. Again, another interesting list, kind of below that typical 6, below that typical 7 activation, or sorry, deployment mark. And a massive bid here from Xantos, the only separatist fleet in the top 4, and one of 8 in the top gold league here. But you know, there there's only a handful of fleets that have a bid even close to him. Um, he's 5th in bid size out of the gold league, and he's made it work for him. So great job there with this Dooku fleet. We'll check out my list looking for a little more in-depth analysis there on the fleet. Now let's take a look at the path that Xantos took to get to the elimination stage. So Xantos top pod 11 here with 21 tournament points, with 3 wins over P-Town Hikers, Phoenix, and Imperial Straw Destroyer. 6, 7, 8 tournament points across the board. Um, I'm kind of intrigued that he didn't at least score a huge win over anyone until the last round here. So after graduating the Gold League, his 4 rounds of Swiss were Grakmo in round 1, Outbound Flight in round 2, a 7-8 win, respectively. And then a loss to Schiapo in round 3, and then a win, big win, 361 point margin of victory, 10 points for the tournament score to launch him from 20 tournament points up to 30 to qualify for the elimination phase. So great job there, picking up a big win. I wonder if PT 106 went all in or what. I wonder how. Yeah, I really wonder how that match went out. But the loss against Scapo, part of the Armada isn't Armada. You can't always win every game, but knowing how to lose and pulling out a good loss is also important. So a 5-point tournament point loss is always good. Always good. It's essentially a draw. 5-6 is really just a draw. So and 6-5 really just a draw. So really, it's kind of impressive there. You know that you can take a lesser play commander and do so well with it. So congrats, Santos, and let's talk about how these fleets match up. So Xantos has 4 activations versus LargePackage's 2. Normally I'd discount LargePackage, but clearly that has not phased him thus far. Xantos has the bid at 12 points, so it'll be interesting to see if he picks first or second. I would imagine second since he's Dooku, but having Patriot Fist is also a powerful first player activation. Um, but the big kicker, I think, here is actually Raid will really be effective here for Santos. He's got a really tanky flagship, hard to take down. Recusant is very cheap, not a huge loss if it does go down. It should punch something out. Probably the Gladiator, I'd imagine, with Patriot Fist there, and then the Battle Refit in Transport will help pump in supplementary damage, and hopefully for him at least, TI-99 will let those vultures kind of do their thing and soak up damage and maybe take out an interceptor or two. I'm gonna be interested to see if he toggles against Bosk or not, because Bosk does get that free accuracy if he's damaged. So that'll be interesting to see. But really, though, I think the key factor is when you're looking at large packages fleet, it's missing something critical, and it's not activations, it's token. Like, what are you doing with tokens here? Large package is going to have to bank tokens to handle the raid if he wants to activate squadrons timely, or he's going to have to play a really passive game and essentially accumulate all the raid and then burn the dial just to handle, just to clear that off and actually be able to use the squadrons. But by then, Xantos should be on top of him. So it'll be interesting. Again, it'll be interesting to see who picks first, or if he Xantos picks first or second. But I think that raid is really going to hurt large package a lot. I mean, Ozil will still allow him to navigate fine, control the pace of engagement, but it's going to like if he can't squadron, that's half his fleet essentially is the 134 points in squadrons, and then the upgrades on the Imperial Star Destroyer. So it's gonna be tough. He's gonna have to bank that token. Round one, round two, he's gonna have to burn through that squadron raid to or round two or three, whatever he picks, I guess, because he's Ozil. He's gonna have to burn through that squadron raid and throw out that dial. So that minimizes the ability to activate um, at all the squadrons. So he's been probably throwing, Gent. I mean, he against enemy squadrons, he can throw Gent and Merrick, Saber, and all three interceptors. That's 6 squads, and he's going to Hangar Bait brings the dial up to 5, and then a token will make it 6. So 6 squad activations, 6 squads without Rogue. Now he's probably going to have to leave one of those interceptors behind uh, because the raid is just going to affect him. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know if the Gladiator's throwing squadrons or what, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for a large package this game than he's had in his other games where he's been out activated because of the raid. So again, we'll see though. Ozil does help mitigate it to some extent, but ultimately though, I think that's the part that comes into play. And once that hard cell transport gets into range and starts slicing away those dials, hey, he's done. That's got to be the focus if you're large package. I mean, this is an elimination game. I do want to state that. So whoever wins wins. So if it's a 6-5 win and all you kill is an interceptor or a vulture, that's a win. If they don't engage and second player takes a win based on it margin of victory. I mean that'd be stupid because you have to engage. It's an elimination game. So whoever is second does have that advantage, and I'd say it's a pretty significant advantage compared to other games because there is that threat, I guess, of the tiebreaker or whatever. But yeah, so I think really the braid is going to slow down large packages' ability to handle things, and then that hard cell's really got to get in on target. And so I think that's ultimately where the battle is going to kind of focus on. But I do want to say the EWS pick here is actually really useful. I mean, you got 2 squads or 2 ships with salvo. Um, so Requisite won't be able to salvo until it's at close range. That's worthless, essentially. I mean, so I guess the Requisite probably be salvoing squads, if anything. Or the Gladiator, I suppose. Uh, but then the Muni, so good at double arcing out its front arc. Now you lose 2 dice. So EWS is really helpful here for um, large package. So that is something that needs to be talked about, I guess. But really, I think the Recusant can come in and get around while the rest of the fleet can hang out in front or in the side arc, whatever. The Recusant can get around. That's what makes them so deadly, I think, is they're such a large base and they're so as you know, they're so navigable that they really just have that sticking power. If they don't die early, they're going to be around for a while because they're going to out damage you out of the side arc and rear arc because they're already turned around by the time you're half turned. Um, Again, so the slicer tools is probably the best focus to make sure that Imperial Star Destroyer can keep dialing up squadrons. But I think the Recusant, that would allow the Recusant to get into that back rear arc and start, pounding away at that Star Destroyer. And again, this is entirely assuming this is a fair activate, like a full on just at in your face battle. I don't know what the objectives are, um, so it's going to be interesting to see if what Xantos picks with his 12-point bid and how that manipulates the battle. Because if it's something where it's activation related, where like Ion Storm or Band Mining Facility, or I'm not sure what the blue would be, but something like that for Xantos, that's a really strong second player against large package who only has those two activations. Especially with the raid on him, like oh, really hurts things. So I normally I wouldn't be so high on Xantos's fleet. I mean, he's clearly done well. He's had a lot of practice, but I think this actually counters large package really well, and I'm gonna be. It's really gonna be an interesting game. Really gonna be that top player in the Swiss league. He's played two of the best players in the world, in my opinion, in Boba Fett, Angry Ewok. I mean, he's played. They all. Well, everyone's been playing the best players in the world in tabletop simulator scene. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm really excited. And yeah, I think we're going to talk about the next matchup now, which is Phoerix versus Patrick. And let's take a look at Phoerix's list. I said before in my list looking video, which you can find in the link description there, or probably in the pop-up here on the video, that Phoerix is my favorite Ramadi or double onager list. And yeah, well, here it is. It's back. Uh, Once more, we've Bosk in the squadron ball here in the top four. So, two Imperialists, two Bosk players. So, hey, bring Bosk if you want to make top four. Got Captain Jonas, Vader, TIE Defender, also in the other Imperialist. Morna Key, which is fun, and two Fire Sprays. I haven't seen a whole lot of Morna Key since 1.5. So it's pretty cool that she's here hanging out in the top four again. So this is kind of I wouldn't say a typical Donager build, but it's pretty typical. Commander Beck's pretty fun, despite the rules issues that she brings to the table, literally. And Raquel is probably the most fun title in the game, if you ask me. Who doesn't love turning at speed 0? Pretty much every other faction, because they can't do that. Yeah, so I think Phoerix is one of my favorite lists, and let's see how it suited him as Phoerix moved his way through the Assault on Endor tournament. Another tough pod for a top four player. So again, from pressure makes diamonds. Phoerix here emerged victorious from pod 8 with 19 tournament points. Second place, Stone Twig had 18. Iced Becker had 15, and TCU, I'm guessing like Texas Christian University, TCU, not 100% sure. TCU had 14 tournament points. And Phoerix picked up a big loss there against Stone Twig, who was the other player to make it out of pot 8. And yeah, I think this really shows that you kind of you can't win them all. Um, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing at with these results in this tournament here is when you're playing 7 games in Ramada, you're you're probably gonna lose 2 if you're if you're a top player. I'm not a top player. I I lost 3, but we'll talk about that at a later day. So Phoerix did a great job here. Despite losing big, still pulling out a big win. So I'm interested to wonder what the order was, if he had lost big, or if he kind of what didn't play as normally because he already had everything secured at 17 points. So or so that loss came first, and he was forced to play super aggressive against Ice Becker. Um, yeah, I wonder what the deal is there. So interesting. Unfortunately, I don't think he got to play against Real Veers. Last year's Vassal World Cup champion. Real Veers had to drop from this tournament, unfortunately. Um, so I think that was just a bye win there for Phoerix. But followed up with a loss to Patrick, which is interesting. It's because it's a rematch. Patrick is the other player on the other side of the bracket. And a big win over. So chilling at 11 tournament points after round 2, that's not a good sign, really. You're not looking good, especially when you're 8 points from a bye. You're like, they might. Is this really up to snuff? Well, up against Broba Fett, and Broba Fett's Akbar MC30s, he showed yes. Phoerix is like, yes, I am one of the best. Broba Fett is one of the best, and I'm gonna beat him. So jumping from 11 to 21 tournament points, big swing of things, and then he's up against Irish Mad Cat, the famous YouTuber. He's a super swell guy. Uh, Picked up a big win against him, and uh, yeah, so that really rounded things out. 2 big wins to counter that loss there really helps. Again, like this is like a boomer bust type list. I think that's kind of what the onager is really like nowadays at a competitive level. It really is boomer bust, and it really comes down to, I'd say, opponent skill level slash comfort slash build. That combination. If the opponent has a great list up to counter onagers, do they handle it properly? Yes, no. Or does the opponent know how to beat onagers but not have the proper list? Yes, no. Like it's kind of that tricky question there. And so, you're going to come up against some of those bad matchups there, which probably is what ended up with the Stone Twig and Patrick loss. So, speaking of Patrick, let's take a look at his list, and then we'll dive into how they match up and see maybe what Phoerix can do differently. So, Patrick is the lone Rebel fleet in the top 4. Um, the one with the highest fleet total, lowest bid, 400 points, does not care. He'll take first, he'll take second. And he's Admiral Radis. So chances are he's playing second. It's going to be, again, I'm interested to see what his objectives are. If you watch my list look-in video, I spend like half the time trying to guess, but not really guessing because I just have no idea. And yeah, so going to be interesting to see that. Check out the list look-in video for more speculation and deliberation, I guess, on Patrick's fleet, featuring a CR90A with Radis on it, dropping off a MC80 Star Cruiser among Karen, and 2 GR75 supporting things, one with Slicer tools, the other with 8R Talon, and a solid complement of squadrons, 6 aces, could be a Recon list for all you know. Um, yeah, so I think I'm not surprised that Erratus list did so well, given kind of what I've seen in from my list looking videos in the Gold League. That's kind of half the reason they did it. Um, I think, Radis is in this good spot to be a niche from a meta perspective, and he's at like he's a powerful niche, but small enough in terms of population that people aren't really kidding or practicing or game planning against Radis. Maybe that's just me. I've only played against one game against Radis, and that was kind of back in the early days, and my opponent was also pretty newbie. So I won pretty handily that game. But I think that might have been like just before pre-nerf. I don't exactly remember when he got nerfed, or reworked, I guess. But yeah, so I think he actually got reworked like right when we started playing. So I don't know. Anyways, Radis, you know, this should be a solid matchup for him. And I'm going to get a little more into that. But again, I'm not terribly surprised that he's done well, especially with a solid squad ball. That's a lot of hull to chew through. Really painful Sharabe. Got 8 talent to delete an activation potentially. So let's take a look at how he got to the elimination stage. So, if you don't remember, Patrick had tied first place out of everyone in terms of tournament points in the pod phase, with an 8-point win over Schiapo 88 and two Big Ten ones over Mickey Light and Mauro Dior. Um, yeah, that's potency right there. So it's not really a big surprise to see that Patrick went 4-0. So I know I said that it's very hard to win all 7 games. Well, Patrick said, nah, not really. I feel like there's at least one person every tournament that wins 7 games. Patrick is lucky he kind of broke the curse that Aresius has, where he's gone 14-0 since winning the Vassal World Cup in 2020, and now Aresius had back-to-back fifth place finishes, just missing the top 4 cut there. And so Patrick did so, ensured the top 4 cut with 8-point wins, one over Titan, who also had a double onager fleet, so double onager on double onager action, hot, sweaty, full of laser beams. Yeah, he proved to be the Titan Slayer. And then went over fellow top 4 player Phoerix, who we just discussed. Um, solid 8-point win or an 8-point tournament score win. It was almost a seven, but enough is enough. 145 points is plenty. So 8 points there. It's a good thing he got it because I think he probably would have had a MOV. Who knows though? Louis Andre, this year's runner-up for the Vassal World Cup, one of the best players in the world, in my opinion, fell to Patrick. 7-point win, tournament points, 108 margin of victory. That's triple digits. I think that's a win. Small win, but a win. More sizable, so close. 1 point away from being an 8-point win against Angry Ewok, who was last year's Vassal World Cup runner-up. So Patrick proving himself up against some of the Vassal World Cup best, with 2 wins here. Showing off against Rebels, Imperials. He can do it. This Radis fleet is well built, and I'm excited to see it in action here. So, if Patrick continues his winning ways, if he makes if history repeats itself, he should have a win over Phoerix. But let's take a look at the fleets and how they match up now. So, because they matched up earlier, it's going to be interesting to see what lessons were learned by Phoerix, and that 1-point bid is enough to have control of the bid. So, I'm guessing whatever Phoerix did wrong last game, he'll probably adjust for it. It'll be interesting to see how Patrick responds. I'm guessing he's going to pull a ship out of hyperspace into one of these Onager side arcs, blast to Kingdom Come, and then fly off. laughing on his merry way. I am interested to see what was lost in the game there. Again, all these fleets have 6 activations except Patrick's, or sorry, 6 deployments except Patrick's, who really does have 6 deployments though because he's got that ship in hyperspace. So again, that's super interesting that all 4 fleets had 6 activation or deployments really. Um, but Patrick does have the activation advantage, uh, even with that ship in hyperspace that are even. So it's going to be interesting to see how Phoerix adjusts from a tactical level. Really, like what went wrong when they played previously. So when they met up in round 2, Patrick had 266 points and Phoerix had 121 points. So that's 145. So 266 here. Da, da. What's that? That's 100. No, I don't know how. I'm not 100% sure how they got to that number. Maybe it was 130, 155, and a smattering of squadrons. Um, really, Darth Vader is the most deadly. Boss hurts because he's got a lot of hull and has an effect. Morniki hurts because she's got a lot of hull. But I think, yeah, I don't know. Is 266. Not 100% sure. Maybe one of the squadrons escaped and he lost the Onager and the Xanti. Yeah, I don't know he lost, but because I'm guessing he's gonna try to play differently to protect whatever he lost, and the 121 lost by uh Patrick. Man, it almost feels like that should be 131, and that adds up to the slicers and the squadrons. But it could be something else. Again, not entirely sure what was lost. Maybe Adar Talon, um, and some squadrons, I would assume, uh, based on the math here. Unless there were some victory points involved, victory tokens. I don't know how they got that score entirely. Sometimes I can recreate it. But yeah, I don't know exactly what went wrong for Phoerix besides the fact that, MC80 Mon Karen appeared in out of hyperspace in, your side arc, blasting away. Probably first player, given that Phoerix was Ramadi. Maybe that's what went wrong. Phoerix gave Patrick first player, thinking, I'm Ramadi, I could play my objectives, haha, haha, or what. But I think, to get to this stage, you have to be a good player. And I think Forex is more than capable of making those adjustments. So it's going to be really interesting to see what those adjustments are and how Forex adapts to the situation. Um, because yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. But Patrick has just been on a roll, so Forex is going to have to bring his A game to essentially bring this giant snowball of success to a stop. Um, and yeah, the bluefish is not going to stop because yeah, he's just killing it. But anyways, I think it's another fun matchup. I mean, it's a little more predictable. I would give Patrick the edge here just because of the Radis aspect, and clearly he's comfortable playing up against the best players. So yeah, I think it'll be a fun one to watch for sure. And I think that's the only given about the game. But uh, if that CR90 gets popped by some trickery from Ramadi or something, or Patrick outthinks himself. It'll be interesting. But again, I think Radis has the innate advantage here, but you know, Phoerix does have the ability to kind of control his own fate more because he can pick whatever he can kind of adjust for what went wrong last time. So, um, if this was just a one on, like if they hadn't met before, I'd give a significant advantage to Patrick. But because Forex does have the ability to adjust and learn from mistakes, I think it's definitely more of a toss up than initially thought on paper. And you know what the best part is? The battles aren't fought on paper; they're fought on the tabletop on Tabletop Simulator. So I'm going to be streaming the games. Hopefully, I'm scheduled to do the Xantos large package matchup. I'm very excited to do it. So we're gonna we're gonna wait for that to get posted, I guess, on my stream YouTube here. I'm going to stream it on Twitch. And yeah, so check out the videos. Thank you for watching. I know I'm rambling a lot. It's kind of late. I got a new computer, so I'm kind of spending a lot of time, making some adjustments to applications, like, the settings and everything. A lot of that didn't get transferred over. But yeah, we're gonna make it. All right. So thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. And yeah, check out the videos as they come out.